welcome back to the Rogue Trader podcast with me, Nick Leeson. Today we're talking markets again with the market expert Jason Sen. I think it's been a theme of the last few times that we've been talking that we've focused in on gold. It's been extremely volatile. It's been racing out of control on this rally that's seen it move towards the $3,500 level. It's pulled back from those levels. Probably been trading in a range for the last few days. It's a big range between about 32.60 and 33.50, but it's pushing one of those ranges at the moment. So it'll be very interesting to see what Jason's thoughts are and where we're going next on this crazy ride that is gold at the moment. So Jason, if you could give us some insight on gold, that would be great.
Sure, let's have a look at gold. Share my screen. Where are we now? Okay, here we go. It's actually traded technically. I'll say that again. Technically, it's traded really well this week. So we've had a bit of a correction. The fib levels are actually working really well for me, the Fibonacci levels. So I'll show you where I put my Fibonacci levels going all the way back, actually to 2022. Well, actually further, as you can see, but we don't need to worry about them. And then the more recent set go back to around, let me see, I think that's June 2024. Now, what I got was a confluence of Fibonacci levels around the 32.20, 32.10 area. And as you can see, we just bounced right off there. So that was why I had a buy level there this week, actually, funnily enough.
Right.
Moving forward, well, that is now key. This week's low is key. We actually got down as far as 32.01. So we overran the level slightly, but you can see nice big bounce up on the daily chart. Some resistance around 32.80, 32.90 probably. That's a fib level. And, you can see from the candles, we should get some resistance there. Those are my parameters for today, at least.
Okay. And then the other one that we've been looking at a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was quite interesting, and we spoke about, when the big players come into the market, and JP Morgan was one of the big firms that we mentioned at the time, that usually the best or one of the best plays around that sort of time is to step aside, let them do their business, and then come back into the market when it starts to calm down. Well, that's the way that it used to be when it was open outcry. We could all see who was doing what, and if you saw specific order flow coming from certain firms, it was best to let them do their business because it was going to wipe out a few people and then start to get involved from there. And JP Morgan was one that we mentioned, but they brought out that piece of research specifically about Tesla, looking at the death cross and what that was going to mean for Tesla. And the real extreme people were saying that Tesla was going to zero, bit like a few people have said about Bitcoin over the last few months as well. But that didn't happen. And I think the thing that I really want to stress is that on the day and when we were talking about it and you gave the explanation of a death cross, which I'd probably like you to do again, you were a buyer of Tesla. So you were on the opposite side of the flow on that day. And maybe just explain what you were seeing. And the fact is that Tesla, since that day, I think it went down for a couple of days with some bad figures and some other stuff, the other order flow that was going through at that time. But it's now up probably fairly close to $100 since that particular point. I think we were trading about 191, and it's a good $100 above that now.
Yeah. Okay, so the death cross is when a fast-moving average crosses down and below a slower moving average. So in this case, I don't know which ones JP Morgan were talking about, but on my daily chart, I've got the 50 crossing below the 100, and then I've got the 50 crossing below the 200-day moving average. So some people would call that a death cross and a sell signal. And they could still be right, of course. We're mostly trading in a range at the moment, and we certainly are. The red line is the 200-day moving average. So we are holding below there, and therefore, I could certainly argue there could be some pressure to the downside unless we break above the 200-day moving average, which is currently around $292. I have been buying Tesla. I have for fundamental reasons. I believe that Tesla is more than just a car company. I won't go into that. I don't think we want to discuss that today, but from a technical perspective, yeah, for me it is down. It is all down to the 200-day moving average at $292. If we don't get above it, then we could be down testing the 50-day about around 265. We seem to be in that range at the moment, anyway. As you can see, probably should open this up a bit, should I? You can see over the last 3 days we pushed higher, and then we've been hovering sideways, sort of from the low, from around 270 up to 295.
Okay. All right, and a great call on your behalf on that day when we were looking at it, and everybody else was pointing in the other direction, and as you said, it was a bit of a sell signal. One of the other things and we don't have too much time today, but one of the other things I just wanted to have a quick chat about you and go back to our floor trading days as well was, you know, and this isn't certainly something that we would be experiencing at the moment because the markets are volatile. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's signals all over the place. And it's very easy to get pulled into the markets, but there were many a day that you sat on the trading floor and there was nothing to do. The markets weren't moving, you know, in any particular direction. And so we always used to come up with stupid little games. It was, you know, it was kids in the playground coming up with ideas of stuff that we could do just to challenge each other with during the day, so that there was a bit of color in the day. So I wondered if you had any stories. I've got a couple that I'll add into it afterwards, but you know, there used to be eating challenges, and I think I won most of them. I certainly won more than you anyway, because you know, I'm a lot bigger, or that's the excuse I'm giving anyway. But go on, maybe you've got one or two from the days on life that were.
Well, spoof was the one. I'm sure you remember. 3 coins, and then you put your hands behind your back. How many coins have I got? And you know, there could be 10 people playing that game. So be the makeup. If there was 10 people, there was potential total of 30 coins, and you're making prices on how many coins there are. Yeah. That was probably the one that people play the most. But I also remember, you must have had this in Singapore as well, because everyone had trading cards. When people were bored, you'd cut a card into a shark fin with a little tag on it, slip it under the back of someone's collar. I mean, how childish were we? So this guy's walking around the floor, collecting cards or whatever. Everyone's going, shark, shark. Did they do the spurs on the back of the shoes as well in Singapore?
Yeah, they did. It was normally for visitors that were coming in and being shown around the trading floor, and everybody else is in on the joke, and obviously they're not, and they're getting plenty of abuse shouted at them. But I always remember a few eating challenges as well. You know, can you eat 5 Big Macs in an hour, and pizza stuff as well. I remember in Hong Kong there was a bit of a pizza challenge as well, and it was 3 or 4 large pizzas that you had to eat within a certain amount of time. And it was a lot of big kids when it was they were very, very professional and busy when the markets were busy, but when it came to periods of quiet, it was always dreaming up what the next thing was to do. But I think it gives an analogy into retail traders, and people are watching this, and people are trying to trade all day. You don't need to be trading all day. Certainly through your experiences and the more technical approach, you're very much waiting for the perfect, or not the perfect, because I think perfect's a word that gets used far too easily. You're looking for that, that high probability setup that's going to enable you to trade. I think a lot of people in front of screens think they have to be doing something. They can go and play spoof with their kids, or dream up their own food challenge or whatever else, but there is no need to trade all of the time. And maybe you could make a few comments about that, Jason.
I have a saying, actually. Remind me to tell you about a Big Mac story when I finished. But I have a saying that being a day trader doesn't mean you trade all day, and it doesn't even mean that you trade every day. I've been doing this same time as you, nearly 40 years, and there are times when I just literally don't know what's going on, and there's no signal, nothing that fits my criteria for a setup, and I even to my subscribers, I'll say, you know what, today I just haven't got a clue. I'm really sorry. I'm going to wait for clarity. You have to be able to say that.
Yeah, I think I mean honesty is definitely the best way to go. But I think too many people force trades, and they get themselves into difficult situation when the trade isn't there. So let's go back to the Big Mac story, and then we'll finish up there.
No, it is a real skill to be able to sit in front of a screen and sit in your hands and not actually trade. I remember when I first started, I was actually on the floor of the London Stock Exchange, and we had one of these days when it was how many Big Macs can you eat? So if someone goes to McDonald's. Anyway, this guy couldn't finish the last one and he spat it out. So then someone goes, "Oh, I'll give someone 20 quid or whatever if you eat what he spat out." No one on the stock exchange would do it. Someone goes over to the life floor, the futures exchange, literally get someone over from there called Batesy, and if you knew him, you'd know. And they were like, "Well, I'll give you 20 quid if you eat." He goes, "Yeah, all right." Boom, boom, just some of them are animals down there.
Yeah, no, there was definitely characters all over the place. Okay, look, Jason, thank you very much for joining us today. Excellent as always. I think the Tesla call was spectacular. Gold, you've been nailing that for the last number of weeks as well. So we'll be speaking to you again soon. So if people can like, subscribe, and share us on YouTube, that would be fantastic. And we'll be back and we'll be doing more of these. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you.